And when we whoop enough ass, everybody gonna get in line and do right.
All right, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome, family. Welcome, welcome. We got the panel all back together again. Our topic this day is fire. This time. Now, we all know James Baldwin wrote a book entitled Fire Next Time. Well, our conversation is fire this time. We just got off doing a 2-program series on Dr. Martin Luther King. And where do we go next? To sum that up, it was stated, and Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was stated that what the methodology that Dr. King used back then is no longer effective today. That we need a new strategy, a new way of being, because the protest and marching and all that, that's over. That's done. We're not carrying no picket signs. We're not doing that. Dr. King led his life on a set of principles. We can admire those principles, admire the way he stood, but the way forward is a different way. He used love, I would say, as the centerpiece of his way. But I believe he was trying to practice love with certain people, with white folks who don't have love, don't know nothing about love. So trying to offer them love when they're offering you death, you're not speaking the proper language. So today, fire, this time, we're going to talk about this proper language. Before I also, we're going to talk, because we're basing this off of James Baldwin's book, Fire Next Time, because there's things in there that I believe that we have to make sure we cut out of the lexicon of Black America, that we can no longer carry these set of ideas, because I believe these ideas equals our death. So we're going to go into that. I would like to welcome to the program today Twin Pyramid, Deacons of Reality, Christine Williams, Brother Willie Rivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And my first question to our August panel is, what are your thoughts on James Baldwin as an author? And I don't know whether James saw himself as a leader of Black thought, but would you consider him a leader in Black thought? And we know that once you think a certain way, it should produce a certain type of action. So also make sure that we're clear on that. And I also want to welcome MDP to the program. Peace and blessings. We're glad you're here. So we'll go ahead and start with Sister Cassie. Peace and blessings, Sister Cassie. Come on in.
All right. Peace and blessing, family. Well, for me, I think Brother Baldwin, I don't think he understood the leadership. I think, and I do believe that he was a great leader. He spoke truth to power. He was Black first. And he always talked like that, from my understanding, from what I would hear him say, the times I would hear him talking. And he was so cool with it, even though he, was doing on another another little thing there, but he didn't consider that, he was Black first. So many people who are in other lifestyles, they think of that lifestyle first, but him himself, he was Black first. And that's what I like about it.
Okay. All right. Doc?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about James Baldwin? And what's
I love Baldwin, man. Baldwin, for my money, is the greatest social critic this nation has ever had. Just bar none. You know, I've actually purchased his book, The Price of the Ticket, 5 separate times. And it has been stolen by one of my students 5 separate times. Baldwin is prolific, profound, uncompromising. And you know, Baldwin is one that, you know, we talk about the fire next time. Baldwin is one that literally brought the fire to this nation at every turn. And what makes Baldwin's contributions really resonate is that he's offering contributions within a movement that would never really accept him. And yeah, you know, because you're talking about Baldwin, you're talking about Rustin, you're talking about Randolph. These are uncloseted homosexual Black men who are never really going to be accepted, even in the historical narrative that we recreate when we look back over things. But Baldwin, for my money, there's no competition, as Rakim would say. There's no competition when you begin to talk about being a social critic and being profound. Nobody can hold a candle to Baldwin. And I yield.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Brother Isaiah?
Now, I know it's never what you say, it's how you say it, never what you do, it's how you do it. So I'm going to be peaceful. James Baldwin, I don't know if that brother would try to appease, to get along, to go along with white folks in his interview with them, and the nature and flow of the Black community at that time. That can be debated, you know what I mean? Hold on for a second. Car going by. But the idea is still the same. We cannot afford to appease nobody. We all we got. That holds true even during the time of Black Wall Street. We became galvanized economically, politically, spiritually. We did better than white folks. You understand what I'm telling you? Money talk, bullshit walk. I don't give a fuck how you cut it or slice it. Ida B. Wells said, let the African American depend on himself, but most importantly, let him continue to education. Depend on himself and continue to educate him, but more than that, begin to put money in your purse. But when you have money and plenty of it, parties and races will come to you. That can be shown in Saudi Arabia when Saudi Arabia was nothing but a desert. Now it got over a family worth over $1 trillion. Do you know how folk come to them asking for this and ask for that? Nobody don't ask that. Poor motherfuckers for shit. I'm just being honest. I'm being truthful. And I'm being forward. That is the only way that I can be. I am a Lion of Judah. I'm not going to sit here to go along to get along with no motherfucker. Period. If you wrong, you wrong. If you right, you right. And same goes for me. Now, when it comes to James Baldwin, he's not as astute as I would have loved for him to have been. He wasn't using the 3 rings of power: politics, economics, and religion. And when you understand the impact of that, and especially when our ancestors through the Black Wall Street understood it very well, then we would be more of a formidable force to deal with. And we become, and I don't know if that's the right word, become animated or become more involved in Wall Street, where the fucking money is, you know, because there was somebody asked a bank robber, why do you rob a bank? Because that's where the money is, nigga. Get off your fucking ass, start saving fucking money, invest it correctly. Don't go to no goddamn lottery ticket.
All right, Brother Isaiah, you're getting off topic.
No, no, no. I'm
Yeah,
on
yeah,
track.
yeah. We
But
ain't
wait, wait,
talking
wait,
about
wait.
economics. We
No,
talking
no,
about
no. But that involved in it. How can you not involve it? Because economics involve politics, and the spirituality is the awakening to the truth of our history, of our power. That's what I'm talking about. You cannot divorce yourself from those three elements. And I yield back.
all right. Thank you, Brother Isaiah. All right, so we're going to go right ahead to the first part, the first video, and it is a letter from James Baldwin to his nephew, of course, coming out of the book Fire Next Time. And then we're going to come back and discuss it. And also, if you're available to take notes, that you see parts in here that definitely need to be discussed, please do that so we can talk about it. But here we go with the first video.
Luke James. For James. James. Luke James. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water. The fire next time. My dungeon shook. Letter to my nephew on the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation. Dear James, I have begun this letter 5 times and torn it up 5 times. I keep seeing your face, which is also the face of your father and my brother. Like him, you are tough, dark, vulnerable, moody, with a very definite tendency to sound truculent because you want no one to think you're soft. You may be like your grandfather in this. I don't know. But certainly both you and your father resemble him very much physically. Well, he is dead. He never saw you. And he had a terrible life. He was defeated long before he died because at the bottom of his heart, he really believed what white people said about him. This is one of the reasons that he became so holy. I'm sure that your father has told you something about all that. Neither you nor your father exhibit any tendency towards holiness. You really are of another era. Part of what happened when the Negro left the land and came into what the late E. Franklin Frazier called the cities of destruction. You can only be destroyed by believing that you really are what the white world calls a nigger. I tell you this because I love you. And please, don't you ever forget it. I've known both of you all your lives. Have carried your daddy in my arms and on my shoulders, kissed and spanked him, and watched him learn to walk. I don't know if you've known anybody from that far back, if you've loved anybody that long, first as an infant, then as a child, then as a man. You gain a strange perspective on time and human pain and effort. Other people cannot see what I see whenever I look into your father's face. For behind your father's face, as it is today, are all those other faces which were his. Let him laugh, and I see a cellar your father does not remember, and a house he does not remember. And I hear in his present laughter, his laughter as a child. Let him curse, and I remember him falling down the cellar steps and howling, and I remember with pain his tears, which my hand or your grandmother's so easily wiped away. But no one's hand can wipe away those tears he sheds invisibly today, which one hears in his laughter and in his speech and in his songs. I know what the world has done to my brother and how narrowly he has survived it. And I know, which is much worse, and this is the crime of which I accuse my country and my countrymen, and for which neither I nor time nor history will ever forgive them, that they have destroyed and are destroying hundreds of thousands of lives, and do not know it, and do not want to know it. One can be, indeed one must strive to become, tough and philosophical concerning destruction and death. For this is what most of mankind has been best at since we have heard of man. But remember, most of mankind is not all of mankind. But it is not permissible that the authors of devastation should also be innocent. It is the innocence which constitutes the crime. Now, my dear namesake, these innocent and well-meaning people, your countrymen, have caused you to be born under conditions not very far removed from those described for us by Charles Dickens in the London of more than 100 years ago. I hear the chorus of the innocent screaming, "No, this is not true. How bitter you are." But I'm writing this letter to you to try to tell you something about how to handle them. For most of them do not yet really know that you exist. I know the conditions under which you were born, for I was there. Your countrymen were not there, and haven't made it yet. Your grandmother was also there, and no one has ever accused her of being bitter. I suggest that the innocents check with her. She isn't hard to find. Your countrymen don't know that she exists either, though she has been working for them all their lives. Well, you were born. Here you came, something like 15 years ago. And though your father and mother and grandmother, looking about the streets through which they were carrying you, staring at the walls into which they brought you, had every reason to be heavy-hearted, yet they were not. For here you were, Big James, named for me. You were a big baby. I was not. Here you were, to be loved. To be loved, baby, hard at once, and forever to strengthen you against the loveless world. Remember that. I know how black it looks today for you. It looked bad that day, too. Yes, we were trembling. We've not stopped trembling yet. But if we had not loved each other, none of us would have survived. And now you must survive because we love you, and for the sake of your children and your children's children. This innocent country set you down in a ghetto in which, in fact, it intended that you should perish. Let me spell out precisely what I mean by that. For the heart of the matter is here, and the root of my dispute with my country. You were born where you were born, and faced the future that you faced because you were black, and for no other reason. The limits of your ambition were, thus, expected to be set forever. You were born into a society which spelled out with brutal clarity, and, in as many ways as possible, that you were a worthless human being. You were not expected to aspire to excellence. You were expected to make peace with mediocrity. Wherever you have turned, James, in your short time on this earth, you've been told where you could go and what you could do and how you could do it and where you could live and whom you could marry. I know your countrymen do not agree with me about this, and I hear them saying, "You exaggerate." They do not know Harlem, and I do. So do you. Take no one's word for anything, including mine, but trust your experience. Know whence you came. If you know whence you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. The details and symbols of your life have been deliberately constructed to make you believe what white people say about you. Please try to remember that what they believe, as well as what they do, and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity and fear. Please try to be clear, dear James, through the storm which rages about your youthful head today, about the reality which lies behind the words acceptance and integration. There is no reason for you to try to become like white people, and there is no basis whatever for their impertinent assumption that they must accept you. The really terrible thing, old buddy, is that you must accept them. And I mean that very seriously. You must accept them, and accept them with love. For these innocent people have no other hope. They are, in effect, still trapped in a history which they do not understand. And until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. They have had to believe for many years, and for innumerable reasons, that black men are inferior to white men. Many of them, indeed, know better. But as you will discover, people find it very difficult to act on what they know. To act is to be committed, and to be committed is to be in danger. In this case, the danger in the minds of most white Americans is the loss of their identity. Try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shining and all the stars aflame. You would be frightened because it is out of the order of nature. Any upheaval in the universe is terrifying because it so profoundly attacks one's sense of one's own reality. Well, the black man has functioned in the white man's world as a fixed star, as an immovable pillar. And as he moves out of his place, heaven and earth are shaken to their foundations. You, don't be afraid. I said that it was intended that you should perish in the ghetto. Perish by never being allowed to go beyond the white man's definitions, by never being allowed to spell your proper name. You have, and many of us have, defeated this intention. And, by a terrible law, a terrible paradox, those innocents who believe that your imprisonment made them safe are losing their grasp of reality. But these men are your brothers, your lost younger brothers. And if the word integration means anything, this is what it means. That we, with love, shall force our brothers to see themselves as they are, to cease fleeing from reality and begin to change it. For this is your home, my friend. Do not be driven from it. Great men have done great things here, and will again, and we can make America what America must become. It will be hard, James, but you come from sturdy peasant stock, men who picked cotton and dammed rivers and built railroads, and in the teeth of the most terrifying odds, achieved an unassailable and monumental dignity. You come from a long line of great poets, some of the greatest poets since Homer. One of them said, "The very time I thought I was lost, my dungeon shook and my chains fell off." You know, and I know, that the country is celebrating 100 years of freedom, 100 years too soon. We cannot be free until they are free. God bless you, James, and Godspeed. Your uncle, James.
All right. So that was the letter James Baldwin wrote to his nephew, of course, in the book Fire Next Time. I want to welcome Mayat to the program. Peace and blessings, Mayat. We're glad that you're with us today. So before I get into my questions to the panel, I want to get your summation of what you just listened to. Sister Cassie, I want to start with you because you said James Baldwin is Black first. After listening to what you heard, do you still believe James Baldwin is Black first?
Woo, boy. Woo, I ain't never heard that one. Woo, I heard so many inconsistencies in there for me. For me. You guys know. I don't give a dang on what these crackers think. He talked about loving them. That's not Cassie. That's not in Cassie's world. I don't believe he talked about if I've never ever heard that. Okay. And to me, I hate to say we sound like a I'm sorry. He was so affected by white people, okay, in his world. And I ain't never heard that. I'm sorry, you guys. We got to be honest here. I'm just going to be honest, okay? I'm going to take back my little speech. I ain't never heard. I'm sorry. To me, they can't be loved. we will never, ever come together with them. And that's what he wanted. He had that Martin Luther King thing. I'm going to hold his hand. I don't give a damn about holding the hand. Okay. That's just not me. Because I've seen how evil, I've seen how no matter what we do, they will never accept us. So it's no sense in even trying. From what he was telling his son or his nephew, that poor baby, I hope he never read that letter. I mean, because in that letter was just, for me, it showed a lot of hurt. It showed a lot of how his mind was affected by them. He really cared about what those crackers thought about him. No, he really wanted to get along with them. He really was like, we can't do nothing without them. He was saying this world won't be if they don't get it first. No, we got to teach them. We have to teach them how to think Black first. We have to show them what we working with. I don't give a damn if they love me or not. I'm not here for them to love. And that's what he wanted. He wanted white folk to understand and to give him permission and to love him and to just, he wanted a connection with them that he would never get. It's never going to be. And his poor nephew, I mean, I hope and pray he didn't read that letter, because that letter was horrible. It was a sign of weakness. To me, oh boy, I ain't never heard that. Why I ain't never heard that letter before? I'm just saying, that was good though, because I'm telling you, that just blew my whole mind right there. You know, because I've heard him speak, but I've never heard him speak to that power to where he was looking up to white folk. We got to love them, because if we don't, we got to, we can't force white folk to love us. We can't. Those people will never love you. They don't care about you. They don't give a damn if you die tomorrow. And they try to do everything in their power right now to help you to not be non-existent. But now you're telling me that I have to be friends. I have to, want to be friends. I have to want to love them. I have to love them. How can you love racist people? How can you love people that hate you? And God said they will have a perpetual hatred for you. So how am I going to love that? How do we even start? Where do you start? We tried. Because Martin Luther King, we honored him enough and we tried. So guess what? Because we tried and they just didn't want it. Now, the hell with them. Let's come together, separate, and build. I rest my mic.
Sister
I ain't
Cassie,
never heard that one.
let me ask you this. Because that was written, I believe, sometime in the 60s. And this was the message to help his nephew survive living in this world that is full of hate for Black people. Do you now think that maybe he gave him good advice so that he could live, to fight another day, maybe?
He gave him the advice that he walked by. He gave him, even though he could have, he gave him the best advice that it was safe for him. You know what I'm saying? He didn't, to me, that advice where you have to love them no matter what. You gotta, you got, oh my God, it's just, no, I don't believe he gave him good advice, not even for that, because I don't believe that what happened to us coming together to build, to be free. Well, I didn't hear that in there. I didn't hear him telling him to let's come together and let's build and let's do for self. I heard him cooning saying we're going to do what we need to do for white folk. We're going to come together no matter how they treat you. We're going to love them through this. You can't love demons and devils through nothing. It's just not going to be. I don't care how. We can do whatever. We'll let them use us, which is what our coons do, and they still turn on them. Look at Bill Cosby. He old and about dead, and he was cooning for them forever. And look at they threw him in jail and them tried to leave him there to the day he died. You know what I'm saying? So no, I don't agree with that letter at all. I believe in let's build, let's come together, let's build, let's move, and let's separate. Let's come away from them. We shouldn't have never we shouldn't have never joined them in the first place. I believe that was the Black folks' biggest mistake, by coming together with them. So no, he could have talked to them about, yes, I see it here, and this is what I've done, but this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to concentrate on. Concentrate on building, staying Black, being Black, working Black, building Black, supporting Black. I didn't hear that. I heard all of leave that and come on over here and let's try to get along with people that hate you. So no, that's not the kind of letter I would have left my generation or my legacy. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Sister Cassie. Doc?
Yes, sir.
What'd you get from it?
You know, I've I've been aware of Baldwin's letter to his son for decades, and in fact, it was so meaningful to me that I actually had it posted up in my son's room. It is a letter that, when taken within its proper context, that is somewhat amazing. What Baldwin is doing in that letter is the same thing that he did with his social criticism. He's in many ways substantiating the superiority and humanity of Black folk and issuing significant commentary about the shortcomings of, and he uses this term repeatedly throughout his writings, of his white countrymen. Baldwin, in this letter, in speaking with his nephew, is doing the exact same thing that I did with my son. I have to explain to my son what is the larger context. It's fine for us to talk about Black solidarity, Black power, Black uplift, but you're dealing with what Baldwin would refer to as monster men out in this world. And he's very clear on that this is a world where monster men run. They run it and they dictate it. So now the goal becomes, until we're able to topple these monster men, what is it that we need to explain? You know, for me, my name is James and my son's name is James, so it had a special meaning to me. You need to understand how to deal with them. You need to understand who exactly they are. And one has to undergird, as a Christian, and keep in mind, Baldwin was raised up within the church. His father was clergy. And Baldwin, I want to say, for a little time was also in some leadership position within a Black church during his youth. We have to, in every way, recognize that what Baldwin is talking about, what King is talking about, Rustin, these cats are talking about maintaining one's soul, one's humanity, and not getting down in the mud with these people who are, for all intents and purposes, what Baldwin would refer to as godless, that they have no moral code. And Baldwin has a litany that he goes into, a little riff that he would often go into when he was asked, why did he go to Europe with no money? And Baldwin said, I went there because I was absolutely positively sure that nothing could happen in that nation with me being penniless and homeless that hadn't happened in the land of my birth. So Baldwin is in every way, at every moment, even in that letter, pointing out the futility of the soul, the emptiness of the soul of whites, and trying to undergird his nephew with advice about how do you maintain your soul? How do you keep it from turning so bitter and cold that those who abuse you and spite you win in the end? So, you know, the letter, I've read that letter literally thousands of times. And it still speaks to me because it talks about, it doesn't talk about capitulating to white folk. It talks about one undergirding their truth, your truth. As scripture puts it, what does it benefit a man to gain the world but to lose his soul? So in many ways, Baldwin is buttressing his nephew's soul and saying, do not let the terrain in the context that these, many people refer to them, that these devils have created, don't let that be your determining factor. And never does he say, don't fight for freedom. Baldwin did anything. Baldwin spoke and fought for freedom, spoke truth to power at every turn. And I yield, brother.
Doc, let me ask you, because in that, and definitely, as fathers, we have to rear our children to keep them safe. And I understand Baldwin's motive of what he was thinking. I disagree with it.
What is it? What you disagree with?
I disagree with him calling white folks innocent because they're not innocent. I disagree with him saying that, we have to love them.
Wait a minute. What is he talking about when he calls them innocent?
I don't know. That's what he said. You're innocent countrymen.
Yeah. But what I'll present to the panel is, what is Baldwin actually saying when he calls them innocent? What's he saying? What's the meaning behind him calling them innocent?
I don't see any innocence in white folks at all. I don't see any innocence. What innocence is he talking about?
Okay, what he's actually saying is that white folk are born, what we refer to as white folk, and it's really a mongrelization of Europeans, Russians, Italians. They come to this nation and they become white. What Baldwin is essentially saying and calling them innocent is they have been born into this system that has been running since the 14th century, 15th century. They know nothing else. And they're going to be socialized. They're going to be reared up in a system that this is all they know. So in many ways, they're following what many people would refer to as a script that has been already laid. They know no other way to be. And what Baldwin is in many ways saying is that they're being born into the script. And in many ways, learning that this is how you do it. Okay, because one can, you have to look at it from one of two ways. Either they're born evil, or the system in many ways teaches them to be equal, or some variant of that. So with Baldwin, when he calls them innocent, what he's actually saying is that these are people who were born in a nation that has rested on the pillars of power, domination, exploitation, and really the economic exploitation of Black folk. They don't really know why they hate Black folk. They just know that that's a nigger. Okay, as Malcolm put it, he said the first word that European immigrants learn when they come through Ellis Island, of course they came through other places like Galveston down here, other than Ellis Island, is the word nigger. And the fact of the matter is that it is our presence, okay, our presence that actually serves as the bonding glue for them. We're the other, which in many ways means that whiteness is really not standing for anything if Blackness was not apparent. We're the rallying point for them. And what Baldwin is in many ways saying is that, look, they're born into a system that's going to dominate and exploit them as well in time. And we see this with the 1960s hippies. In time, that system is going to consume them as well. In time, they will be doing the bidding for that system, and it will appear as if, well, they're just the next generation, and it was no. They have been propagandized. They have been taken over, and that's what he's talking about when he talks about that they're innocent as well, because they're going to be born into a system that they have to react to and tailor themselves to survive the same way that his nephew James will. That's what he's talking about when he talks about innocence.
And,
Well, can I just
and
say
he-
one thing on that?
Go ahead, Sis Kat.
For me, it sounded like he was just saying go along to get along. To me, it sounded like we have to conform to them. We can never do, we can never be, we can never do. It's always about them. No, it's not. That's the
That's
way
not what
I
he's
look at it.
saying.
But well, I'm just saying what I'm seeing. This is Cassie's eyes. Okay. So we have to always allow them to be, and we have to just allow it. Because even now, when they do to us, they're looking at us like, shh, don't say nothing, just let us be. Because we're right and you're wrong. That's what I see. And that's what I see Baldwin doing. He's conforming. He's not wanting to make noise. Just let them be.
James
They'll
Baldwin.
hang themselves.
That's
But
no.
do they?
That's not Baldwin.
Well, that sounds like Baldwin to me from what I just heard.
Baldwin. You heard one time a letter that he wrote to his nephew. That's not Baldwin. Baldwin is one of the most radical thinkers, if not the most radical thinker. This
Okay,
is the
well,
same
what-
man that took Dr. King to task for his nonviolent civil disobedience and his being so passive. Baldwin has a long litany. Don't sum up this man's legacy just truly on one letter.
But I'm listening. I hear what you're saying, but I also look to see what did he have? What changes did he do for Black people? How did what he did? Where are the changes today? You understand what I'm saying? Just like for King, for instance.
I hear what you're saying, but what you have to do is you have to be fair. Baldwin is a social cultural critic. He's on the outside observing and issuing incredible, and I mean incredible, commentary about this nation that to this day can't be denied. James Baldwin still stands without rival as America's greatest social critic ever. Okay, I'll put Baldwin up against anybody. So in saying that, he's not necessarily, and he talks about this. If you watch the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, Baldwin talks about his inadequacies and feelings that he's never on the front line. Martin's killed, Medgar's killed, Malcolm's killed. And here he feels such inadequacy because he's a social critic. He's not really an activist. So you can't really measure his impact and his influence based upon changes in society. He's issuing commentary about this larger society. That was never his or any other social critic's real goal. But Baldwin is, you look at his body of work, incredible.
So all he did was criticize white folk, and that was it. That's all.
No,
I mean, for real, if we
that's
really
not
looked at it,
that's not what I said.
I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Baldwin is a social critic that, once again, I'll go back to, he criticized Dr. King. He criticized the civil rights movement. He criticized the March on Washington. Okay, Baldwin is a social critic, and that's his role. You can't, just throw him to the side and say, well, all he did was criticize white. It's just patently untrue.
I believe he talked, right? He's a great talker, great speaker. Thank you. But I believe in also we have to do too. We can't just be talking, seeing the difference and seeing what needs to be done in our community and just talk about it. Let's be about it. Let's do something different. Let's build. If you see that there's something wrong, we talk all day long, but let's build over here. Let's come over here and do something. We see what's wrong. So do we just talk or do we just build, or we just, what do we do? about it.
The fact that we're talking about James Baldwin tonight is a clear indicator of what this man, his influence, and what he helped build. You don't have the poignancy of a king without a Baldwin behind him. Baldwin is in many ways the equivalent of a fullback who is going into these different societal venues and really dropping bombs on people. You know, if you understood Baldwin and the phenomenal nature of his work, how large he actually is, I don't believe you would be saying what you're saying. You know, Malcolm, Brother Malcolm, I know that in this area we love Malcolm. Malcolm says, who's the only person that was up on the dais and was not allowed to speak? It's James Baldwin. Why? Because they can't control what Baldwin's going to say. And it was true. They didn't allow Baldwin to speak. And he's up there on this. He's the only one that wasn't allowed to speak. They didn't allow Baldwin to speak because Baldwin is liable to say any fucking thing at any time. He's not a lukewarm, milquetoast writer or speaker. You know, his work speaks volumes. You know, go get a copy of The Price of the Ticket. You know, and there's no way that you could, you know, you have this litany of black writers. You know, Baldwin can stand with all of them. Richard Wright, Ralph Ellison, all of these cats that are making these very poignant commentaries on what it means to be black in America. Now, it's great for us to say, well, yeah, what did they build? You know, we needed to be built. Well, you don't know what needs to be built until you know what the holes are there. And that's the role of the social and cultural critics, something that we need nowadays. Now you.
You know, and this is my thing. I think that when I go back and think about James Baldwin having the conversation with the white dude on that little TV program, and he was like, well, I don't know if the HOA is racist, but they don't like black people. I don't know if this is this.
No, I'm not a part of it.
Yeah. But when you're dealing with oppression, you're not going to come out of oppression by loving your oppressors. When he clearly states we must accept them with love. What does that look like? More of what we're already doing.
Yes.
You're gonna bust me on my head. I'm gonna turn the other cheek and give the other side to bust me on my head. I'm gonna continue to hang out. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. I love you. I love you. Mm-hmm. Don't you see me? Don't you see me? No, they don't see you, nigga. You're nothing but a tool of service. And see, this is the problem, because on Front Street, you'll talk that black talk, but then in the private of your family, you're raising your nephew, you're giving a guidance to your nephew to love the enemy. That right there is enough to get you killed. You know, and you know, like Christine Williams says, well, what is love? What is this love that James Baldwin is talking about, that King talks about? What is this love? The same damnable love that Common talked about, who told us we got to love white people more. What is this love that they're talking about?
You
talking about common sense, Common?
Yeah, the rapping nigga when he came out talking about something, we need to love white people more.
Yeah, I was actually approached. I was at an event on Friday. I was actually approached about hosting him and introducing him. He's coming to my campus, and I was like, no, I can't deal with that. But it's not because of anything he necessarily said about love. I just don't like him as an MC. However, the love that you see a King talking about, a Baldwin talking about, the love that that really in many ways extends all the way back to the slave cabins. It is a individual, personalized, inside love that one has to undergird themselves with to not turn into such a hateful person. It's not about loving your enemy. It's about maintaining one's close association with whatever God force that one has. Now, to interpret it and to read it, because I have that form of love, to interpret it and read it as loving white folk is an error, because the love that we're talking about, the love that we're espousing, is being is in many ways kind of being like, it's being seen right now. That my love for humanity, my love for Black folk, my love for liberation and what have you, is what drives me to be here. Okay, I got other places that I could have been, but I made a commitment to this brother, and that's the guiding force of love that I'm talking about. It is a love that I can't relinquish, because for me to relinquish this love means that the evil people, most notably the white folk in this nation, are going to win, if that makes sense. It's the same love force that leads me to doing the Saturday school, to building that. It's the same love force that leads me to doing manhood, race, and culture. Okay. And it's all emanating from the same spot. So when we're talking about the idea of loving our fellow countrymen, in many ways, we have to love them, but not in a love sense of we allow them to do whatever the fuck it is that they want to do. That ain't what we're talking about. What we're talking about is protecting our very essence of our connection with the Most High. It ain't got nothing to do with being scared of nobody. And in many ways, the love that we're talking about is what Christians would refer to as an agape love. Okay, we're not looking at it from a standpoint of, listen, we just love them past what it. No, fuck that. You know that ain't what I'm talking about. And I think that if you reasonably look at enough Baldwin work, you'll know that's not what he's talking about either. We're not loving them with the idea of begging them to continue to dominate. Okay, we love them in many ways. And Christine Williams, you may be correct. We may have care for them from a position that almost pities them in what it is they do. But we don't spend much time on this love or this care because we're too busy building. And you look at where Baldwin was at, look at where King was at, look at where Brother Malcolm was at, all trying to protect their soul. And that's a big part of it. We can't be consumed by a vengeful anger, because that harms us ultimately in the end. And I yield, brother.
This is, and I'm glad you said that, Doc, because I had to go and look that word up to make sure I'm understanding what we're saying, or what you're saying when you say agape love. Mm-hmm. And so I looked it up, and it says agape is a Greek word that means selfless, sacrificial, and unconditional love. Mm-hmm. It's often translated as brotherly love. In the Bible, agape is the highest of the 4 types of love. It is often described as a love that is Christ-centered, others-oriented, and committed to the good of the whole person. Now, for me, and I don't, as a person, as a Black man, I don't have that kind of love for no cracker. Ain't no way would I couldn't give them that. The Quran says to us, it says, why would you offer them love while they try to drive you out? Have you no sense at all? Mm-hmm. And now, to me, when I first read that in the Quran, that this is what God is saying, why would you offer them love while they trying to drive you out. Have you no sense at all? You're going to offer love to those who's trying to kill you? Where is your sense? And to me, it's like there's a catch pen that got Black people in a thoroughly misunderstanding of themselves, God, and the enemy. Because our God hates. And they talk about, and James Baldwin has a quote that we're going to get to, where he talk about that hate hurts the hater. Well, these motherfuckers been hating us all their life, all their natural life, and it ain't hurt them. They still hating us and still carrying on. So it must not hurt the hater because they ain't dropping dead because they hate us. But we dropping dead because we're loving the enemies.
It's hurting and harming them. It is.
Where?
And what Baldwin is talking about, what other social critics are talking about, is actually that after a certain point, you can see that they are soulless. One could make a very good argument that the greatest punishment that they actually are receiving is damage and actually removal of their soul and their spirit. And what much of this that is talking about, it is not in the physical realm. We're talking about the metaphysical realm, okay? That we're talking about the soul. We're talking about things of eternity. We're not necessarily talking about the idea of who has the biggest house, who has the most money, and what have you. In this earthly realm, it matters when you're talking about material things. But there is another realm, and we have to, and you've heard me say this often, we have to fight them on every plane. And while we're fighting them in the physical realm, it is imperative that we protect our hearts and we do not become the monsters that we fight against. And I yield, brother.
You know, I think that, and I want to also welcome Norma X to the program. Peace and blessings. I'm glad you're here. I think I welcome Mayat to the program, right? And Mr. Adofe, welcome to the program. Peace and blessings. Mayat, if I didn't recognize you earlier, welcome to the program. Peace and blessings. I think that this is a real critical point because this is where our people get held up at. And we gotta conquer it. So I'm not really wanting us to move beyond until we get some understanding of what's going on and where we're at. Now, if we're talking about the cracker dying and going to heaven, we gotta stop and really think now.
No, wait a minute. That ain't what we're talking about.
Okay, clarify that.
We're not talking about. What we're talking about is just focus upon us. Okay, it's sort of like we had a show a while ago where we were talking about the idea of if the revolution did occur, because brothers are always talking about let's overthrow them, boom, 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 boom. Well, what are you going to put in its place? And most people have not thought that far. And what many people are going to actually do is they're going to replicate what it is, the oppressive system that they were involved in, with another oppressive system that just has them at the top. Now, what use is that? We have to be very serious about protecting our own souls, our own mental well-being, our own spirit. And we can't become the very monsters that we defy by just hating them unabashedly. Now, we can hate what it is that they actually do, and we can hate their oppression, their oppressive actions and what have you. Mm-hmm. However, we have to be very, very, very careful, very careful. And this is what Baldwin's talking about. This is what really many great social critics are going to tell you when you strip it down to its very last compound. It is quite simply that your treatment of others is going to reveal so much about where you are in your walk in substantive things. Okay. Now, we're not saying that when they come out with a noose that you're gonna go ahead and love them, and of course not. But what we are saying is quite simply that there needs to be some recognition of who they are and how they got there and how they behave. And then you're going to go ahead and you're not, Baldwin is not calling for you to support their evil doings. He speaks against that every single day that he spoke, every interview that he's done. He's not doing that. But what he is saying is recognize the larger system. Recognize that many of them all of them were raised up within the system and they're playing a role. Now, are we going to simply react to that system and be reactionary, or are we going to be fully conscious agents that are building what would be tantamount to a new Jerusalem that shows a different way, okay, filled with good Black folk? And I yield.
Can I say one thing? Let's not get it twisted. I think we keep forgetting because we love our own does not mean we hate anybody. I don't give a damn about them. What I do care about is my Black first family, period. We're not talking about the coons. I'm talking about the real Black folk, okay, that have a heart. And so many people get this Bible twisted that we really don't have a clue who it's talking to. If we understood the history of it, we'd understand it's not even about them. It's strictly about us. It strictly has Black folk in it, talking to Black folk, talking about love your brother, love your fellow man who looks like you. He's never talking about love a man that just shot your son 7 times in the back. Love a man that just killed your brother, 9 family members in a church. He's not even talking to them. He called them spittle. He called them serpent people. He's not even talking to them. And if you want to keep saying, oh, agape love, do we really even understand that? Black folk don't even really know what that means. Out of all the hell that we've gone through in this family, this America, who really knows what that means? Period. We have to start being real about some things and start being honest. For me, I don't give a damn about them. My thing right now, they can exist or not. But my focus here is all about building.
Yeah,
That's what we didn't see with Baldwin. We didn't see him talking about building. We didn't.
You're dealing with a letter. You're dealing with a letter that he wrote to his nephew. This man has written like 15 different books.
Okay, that's okay.
Thousands of journal articles, and you're reducing your analysis of him to simply a letter, and you admit to this being the first time that you heard anything all about from building. Baldwin.
It's all about building. I understand Baldwin said what he said. I understand. I got it. Okay, you love some Baldwin. Okay, good. I got it.
Don't belittle my shit. Do not belittle my shit. Don't approach me in Isaiah. You can sit up there like the devil you are and laugh about the shit. The truth of the matter is that y'all have very little understanding of Baldwin, and because you have little understanding of Baldwin, the shit that you're saying is not historically correct. It is not accurate. And you can sit up here and you can clown, you can try and act however you want to. I told you from the very beginning that what Baldwin, what King, what X are talking about is focused upon building a new Black nation. Okay. They're not concerned necessarily with white folk. What Baldwin said to his nephew is very simple to understand if you're receptive. And it is quite simply, there are monster men out there. What part of that?
We know that.
What part of that relates to loving white folk? What you're really dealing with, and if you really understood it, you would understand that the system and the innocence that Baldwin is ascribing to white folk is flowing from something that Sister Christine Williams wrote about. It is a battle against white genetic annihilation. That's their motivation. And what Baldwin is simply saying is that in their pursuit of avoiding white genetic annihilation. Don't lose your soul reacting to it. Go
Okay.
off and build. Don't be reactionary towards them. Fuck them. Build a black nation. Don't pay no never mind to them at all. And that's the message that you're getting. You're getting caught up in, well, he said love white folk. What he's saying is, in many ways, they don't even matter. Because what you're really trying to deal with is the building of a black nation. And Lord knows we got enough issues just in dealing with that. And I yield.
This is the thing, right? Now, I can understand from the perspective of don't go out and be like them. Allah says in the Quran, don't let your hatred of a people cause you to do evil. And I think we all can understand that. Don't you know? Is one day we were out down in Mississippi, and a white person came up to me and said, "So I understand you gonna run for office, and you're a black first. So that means you're gonna send me to a slave plantation, or you're gonna do this or do this against me because I'm white, I'm not black." And my answer to him was, no, I'm not going to send you to no slave plantation because it doesn't exist. Now, if you break the law, your ass going to jail. That you can guarantee that shit is going to happen. You ain't getting no excuse to get out. Your ass you going to be done. And now if that's where slavery is, then that's where your ass going to be. Mm-hmm. I said, but my thing is to give freedom, justice, and equality. Now, if you're living within those borders,
right,
then you know you're going to get part of it, right, because you're living there. If I had my own way, you know, we would take over these southern states and kick y'all out. Mm-hmm. Because I believe in separation of the races.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But since this is the environment that we're dealing with right now, because you live in the part that I will rule, then you're going to get justice. I'm not going to mistreat you like you did us. But if you break the law, trust and believe it's going to come down on you, just like it would come down on any one of us. But you're going to pay. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So we can teach our people not to exceed the limit. Don't become what we hate. Right. We can teach that, but I think we become an era, especially when you're dealing with a people that has been so thoroughly destroyed. Right. When you start using the words of they're innocent and that we have to love them. Right. I believe that's where the confusion gets in, because love is an essence that Black people have, period. And it is that love that gets us in trouble oft times. So we have to be clear, crystal clear with them, you know, and understanding what our role is. It is not for us to become them. Right. Because then, you know, we done sank so low, lower than a damn dog. And that's not who we are.
There you go.
That's how it has to be presented. So that we can come in with agreement in there.
Yeah, I mean, Brother Maurice, you're right on. It's the reason why even earlier today, you were talking about something and I said, what do you mean by it? And you cleared up what you meant by it. So much of what goes on and so much disagreement flows from the fact that terms are not defined. People are just speaking loosely, just talking. What exactly is the definition of love? It's the reason why I use specifically agape love. You know, you have to define terms. And what all of them are saying is something that I believe within another context that Black folk from the ages have always said, we don't do that shit. That's white folk shit. So in our zeal to go ahead and be free, we can't be like them. You know, in regards as far as loving them, it's loving and it's accepting to just let them go off and destroy themselves and be themselves. Because the wisest among us knows that there is no reformation that is coming for their souls and their spirits. They have been bathed and bathed in hatred and in disruption. There's nothing you can do with that. They are who they are. Now, to say that you love them, that's a far cry from saying, listen, we're going to accept what you bring. No, that's not what love is. We have to love ourselves enough to build up our own and to have our own standards of what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. Because what the oppressor has done, what they have done, is not acceptable in our land. And I yield, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc. Brother Isaiah? You stay on topic, Isaiah.
What love got to do with it? What love got to do? You know the song. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? If that don't sum up all of what's been talked about right now, I don't know what is. But let me try to add a little bit of salt and pepper. White folk gonna be white folk, and I was looking at some of the comments about their what do they call their low birth rate. These people are sick, man. We talked about this many times on your show. White folks were indoctrinated. They were lied to. They were being given a false sense of hope, of history, and of a false bill of goods as to whiteness. Whiteness was not codified into law until the 1780s. But that does not mean that they were white at that time. It had to be preached to them over the generations on the church steps, house steps, school steps, all of that. It didn't come into existence as a reality, mental reality, until the 1880s. After the Democratic Party became a force to be reckoned with. Then you have the lost cause. Then you have the daughters of the Confederacy. Then you have the children of the Confederacy. And in the early 1900s, you had a 10-volume work by the president, I can't remember his name, that deal with white supremacy. So all of this bathing, as Dr. Jones said, is true. They have been bathed in the stench and in the smell and the shit of the 7 sins, 7 deadly sins. And they're not going to change at all. What I like is both angles of Sister Cassie and Doc. Now, when it comes to, James Baldwin, you got to look at the fact that people like him were loved by the white media. I'm going to repeat that again. They were loved by the white media because they were they were compliant. They were going along to get along. They weren't being disruptive. Now, when you look at my book, with a white woman with a tail on it, they're not going to have me on this show. And they're not going to have me exposing as to who they really are. They have no history. They just got here some 4,000 years. There were no white folk 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. The whole motherfucking planet was black. We are a global people. And one of the things that we have to understand is the history of these people and where they come from. They come from the black woman, the Dravidian albinos, of which we roped in Central Asia. They don't come from Europe. They're not white. They're not Anglo-Saxon. They're not European. They're not whatever other Caucasian. They're not. So when you're looking at James Baldwin and whoever else, or King, or I like to say Coon, these people, to whatever degree, they just went along to go along. As long as you are black and you are not being disruptive, you're going to be on white channels because you are non-threatening. Do you understand what the fuck I'm telling you? You are non-threatening. You go along to get along. You're supporting in whatever capacity white supremacy is. And white supremacy and white superiority is an overreaction to black oppression. Now, let me get on that one point. In Iceland, probably the most whitest motherfucking country in the world, commemorates the capture of their white asses by black people, taking them into slavery. That is a commemoration. White people don't even understand or even remember how we took them into slavery. White people don't know about that. But they for sure will tell you about how they mistreated black folk and how black folks are nothing but slaves, which we know that is not true. So, with all of this that is going on, it all comes down to money. The three rings of power: politics, economics, and spirituality. We need to get back to that. The hell with Jesus and all of these people going to church and catching the Holy Ghost and talking. Man, you about that motherfucking fool to me. Because if I am going to be of any good, I have to be of earthly good, because my ass and my head cannot be so heavenly bound that I am of no earthly good. That means that we must be serious about liberation. Firstly, I am that I am. You are what you think you are. Our ancestors said it best. The kingdom of God exists in your black ass, not outside of you. You are the manifestation of all of the universe in human form. I can say that about 1,000 billion times, and you niggas ain't gonna never get it because you just ain't woke yet. But I truly believe, and I will never give up, that our people will wake up to this reality. Now, let me go back to what I came up on Baldwin. Let me read this a little bit. It says, Baldwin was hardly naive about the human capacity for evil, especially in white folks. If you're a Negro, you're in the center of that peculiar affliction, he said, because anybody can touch you when the sun goes down. You know you're the target of everybody's fantasy. But what shocked him was that white America had killed someone he loved and espoused, an apostle of nonviolence. King Death revealed the depths of white America's debasement and the scope of black America's peril. Perhaps even more than the death itself. The manner of his death was forced me. Vete en la habitación, no estoy hablando contigo de la pared. Coño. Perhaps even more the death itself, the manner of his death, has forced me into judgment concerning human life and human beings, which I have always been reluctant to make, he wrote. Incontestably, alas, most people are not in action worth very much. Yet every human being is an unprecedented miracle. One tried to treat them as the miracle they are, while trying to protect oneself against the disaster they become. Now, with that being said, that is the guy is a debatable, question. But as far as Brother Muhammad, I have to take this side, man, because we don't have time to try to go along to get along with white folks. I don't give a fuck how undisruptive you may be. Power, respect power. Political power, respect political power. Economic power, respect economic power. Spiritual power and spirituality, respect spirituality. But if you're coming in with no base at all about our history as a person, and as a people, and as a community, you're like a ship without a sail. You're just going along to get along, and whatever wave that comes along, you go with it. You have no destination, and you have no determination as to where that ship is going. So as far as I am concerned, black folks need to be about that money, as we were in the black community of Black Wall Street. White folk got scared. White folk cannot compete with us on an even level playing field, Doctor, Sister Cassie and Brother Muhammad. And if you look at it, and as I said on Monday, the 1960 Civil Rights Act, that is a watered down version of the 1866 one. The 1866 one is a very valid, lawful, and federal law that must be applied. And if we apply it, just like I gave to you the last time, bonds for the win, you can use that to stop police brutality. Every policeman, every county, every city, every person that works for the city, the mayor, they have to have a bond. And if they're not upholding to their duties, you fucking take the goddamn money. Why fucking not gonna respect black folk, as Brother Muhammad said, that, you know, if you go along to get along, to try to hug and kiss and try to say, well, I'm a man, nigga. I know I got a dick, and it ain't short. I got 2 fucking balls to go along with that bitch. I am not going to ever concede or to go along to get along with. I give no fucks about them, Doctor. That's not a plate against you, but I am telling you, as a man, as a father, as a leader in our community, a leader in our community here in the Dominican Republic, I give no fucks. Now, I sued, just to give you a little bit of information about it, I sued the government here to stop the goddamn thing from being dispensed. You know what that is, the juice. And I won. I took my own fucking money. I took my own fucking time. I got me a very good attorney here and sued the government, the president, the vice president, and the minister of health to stop that bullshit. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Little old me! But I had the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding that it takes to make that motherfucker go away. And it took about a week before they took all them stands down where people go and get that juice. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You know, you can sit up here and hem and haw and push your foot around, but if you're not politically astute, if you're not politically active, then you're going to be at the whim of whoever. We got to be politically astute. You got to be politically involved, because if you're not, then you're going to get ran over. And I'll throw it back at you, Brother
All right. Thank you, Brother Isaiah. So I want us, I've got another part of a video I want to show, but first I want to deal with something that Christine Williams talked about, or she asked a question, and it is, what is race? I believe that was Christine who asked that question. Because there's a few things that she said. One of the things, the question is, what is race? And then the idea that white folks don't hate us, it's genetic survival. And so I want us to talk about that before we get into the next video. But in your understanding, and I know I've heard it, that race, quote unquote, is a social construct. But I don't believe that it's a social construct. I believe you have whites, you have black us, and you have Asians, period, point blank. Everybody will fall into one of those categories. You're either black, white, or you're Asian. And those are different races of people. They're not the same. They're different. And so when we get into, this theory that race doesn't exist. I know a black girl, I was reading an article and she said she didn't know she was black till she got to America. And that was the headline of the article. So that made me jump in and read, okay, what the hell are you talking about? You didn't know you were black till you got to America. Well, she was from Ethiopia. And of course, everybody in Ethiopia is damn near black. Everybody looked like each other. But when she got to America, where everybody ain't black, you got white, Chinese, this, that, and the other, then that's when she found out she was black. I believe the construct is whether or not you have power to do anything that needs to get done. Because the poor class white folk ain't in no better situation than poor blacks. And so the construct to me is this wealth construct. But race is real. And so that's my thinking on it. I'm going to turn it over to the panel. Sister Cassie, what say you?
As far as the question of what is race?
Yes.
For me, I think it's a way of, for me, I think that when they go into the race part of it, it's never going to change, okay? It's always going to be there. But I believe they do it to set apart a group of people, okay? And when we look at people, or look at white folks, I hear us saying, and this is not all, that in a lot of black people, they tend to believe that most white people are not racist. I've heard this. But to me, if God called them serpent people and told us to watch the fruits, okay, that we'll know people by their fruits, we're doing ourselves a misjustice when we say, "Oh, I don't see color," or race is not important, or because it was put on earth in America to divide and conquer. That's what I think. So when I sit up here and I hear people saying, "Oh, color doesn't matter," it does to them. It always matters. It's always going to matter. It will never not matter to them. But we have to understand who they are. And I do believe when God called them serpent people, he called them that for us to be very careful. He said, because you'll know them by their fruits. And we so reckless with understanding what he meant because our pastors told us to love everybody. No, that's not what the word said. So I'm going to go and listen to a man who doesn't have the true revelation than what I'm reading in this book to tell me that certain people are not good people. Because I know what serpent people mean. We're talking about evil. So when you're talking about race, I think it was done on purpose for a reason to divide a group of people. And I rest my mic.
All right, thanks, Sister Cassie. Doc?
I believe that race is a social construct that has been utilized in many different ways. Yet at the exact same time, there's a part of me that wants to acknowledge that DNA and genetics also matter. I look like my father. My son looks like me. I don't think that we can necessarily discount all of that and just say that we're dealing totally with a social construct. But there are different elements of people around the globe. Race in America, there is no black land that could denote where black folk came from. There is no white land that denotes where white folk came from. However, there is a Italy, there is an Ireland, there is a Nigeria. And I lean more towards the idea emphasizing ethnicity instead of this overarching idea of one race versus another race. It's much more subtle, much more convoluted, and than any of that. And I yield, brother.
Yes, sir. And we're going to come back because Mr. Adolphe talked about ethnicity as well. And I want to get into this ethnicity situation as well. Brother Isaiah, go.
Well, I mean, it is a social construct that was created by Blumenbach and Meisner, who were pale-skinned that went into Greece and Rome and saw alabaster white statues and came back to America with that fake-ass idea that, oh my God, these people were white. They look like me. And so you see the evolution or the devolution of that being played out. And they said on their deathbed that white folks in the future generation of these so-called white people would pay the price for the lie that they made. They got PhD based on social, racial science that did not exist. In their book, you have Apollo, which is white, and way, way up here, right? But next to the monkey, you got the face of a nigger. There wasn't too much of a jump to go from monkey to nigger in order to be able to see that, white folks began to get into their heads. And, wait a minute. We are the Greeks. We way up here. And the niggers are right just above the monkey. They're monkey. They're not too much evolved from the monkey. Now, fast forward to 2000 and I do believe in 2010, 12, somewhere around there. Harvard, the best genetic scientists, came to the conclusion based on intelligence tests that the monkey, the ape, and the gorilla scored 3, 4, and 5. White folks scored a 6, and black folks scored 9 out of a 10. So who really is the monkey? I'm saying this to say that the lie that they have been exposed to, all of that is now coming back to bite them in the ass. And it's very hard for them to try to get out of that painted corner of lies and deceit and the plan of the Wizard of Oz game. So if you look at race being something based on a lie and a deceitful way of conducting yourself, then that would be it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These people hate us not for just whatever other reason that they can think of, but they hate us for a reason. You know what I mean? Germany just didn't wake up one day hating Jews. And if you look at the racial animus that is coming to the forefront more and more every day, because I'm seeing it every day on the news, on Twitter, and how white folks still are killing wholesale black folks. And the idea, and I'm just now, excuse me for a minute, cars going by. Yeah. And I'm just now seeing that a lot of Asians are saying, well, the majority of people who are attacking Asian people and committing Asian crime are black people. No, 70% is white folks. So you can see how the news and how the media and how all of that is being played out against us. But I'm here to tell you, once the truth comes out and is accepted, and the elementary schools and the high schools and colleges throughout America and the world as to who these people are, then the whole concept of this so-called racial hierarchy tumbles because it is all based on a lie. And the true kings and queens of this world that created every civilization, that created every so-called religion in the world, is the black man and woman, in that the black woman is the mother of all civilization. So all of this hate and all of this murder and all of this angst and animus is all based on lies and deceit. And yes, there is ethnic differences, but there's no racial differences. But if I'm going to take your side, Brother Muhammad, that in today's world, yes, race does exist because if you're looking at it, Asian go with Asian, Chinese. I mean, yeah, they go with Chinese go with Chinese, and whatever. Black go with black, Mexican go with black Mexican. So as far as that goes, it's very obvious that people will go along and be more comfortable among themselves, their own people, than somebody that's not their people. And I'll throw it back at you.
All right, thank you, Brother Isaiah. I want to get into that ethnicity that Doc and Mr. Dofi touched on. Mr. Dofi says that ethnicity is real, race isn't. But when we get into what ethnicity is, and Mr. Dofi, if you can clarify, and if you want to come on, I can drop the link in the chat, and you can come on and express what you're thinking, what you're saying, so we don't have to just read short by short text. But I'm gonna put the link in the chat box because I want to make sure we understand that. And Doc, you talked about ethnicity as well. So when you're saying that, first of all, when we understand what ethnicity is from the dictionary, what they say, ethnicity is a cultural identification of a group of people based on a shared history and culture. It can include person's customs, history, language, religion, music, values, art, styles, literature, family, rituals, food. Ethnicity can sometimes correlate to national origin, but not always. So if we stop and think about ethnicity when it refers to Black people, look at Black people here in America, you have two different, or maybe definitely more than two cultures, more than one culture here in America amongst Black folks. So, that thing is a separating thing when you talk about that, because for, my culture, what I practice as Black first, as a culture within itself, ain't the same thing that a Black person who calls around them thinking themselves a nigga and doing nigga shit, their culture ain't my culture. And exactly. They have not risen to the level of understanding or been taught what is their real culture or what is Black first, so they can come out of being a nigga into being something that they should be. So when we're dealing with this ethnicity, if we're going to use that as being more closer to a real thing versus race, then,
I mean, it's what I meant earlier when I was talking about the idea of us being the other for white folk, that we're the glue that binds them together. And in many ways, if you go back and you look at a book like Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, the glue wasn't there for the Nigerian people. They don't have an other that would cause them to come together under a racial classification. They're dealing with basically ethnicity. And I'll say this, that I-10, I don't know if anyone's ever traveled I-10. I-10 takes you from Florida all the way to California. It is an amazingly long road. And I remember being in at a gas station. I was leaving Louisiana and coming back to Houston. And this brother, he was there with his family. They were getting gas and they were getting, I guess, some snacks or whatever from the gas station. And he was like, "My man, where how far are you going on I-10?" I said, "Yo, I'm just going to Houston." He said, "Man, we leaving Cali." And And he said, we're going home. And I looked at him and I said, bro, you from Florida? And he bust out laughing. He said, yeah, I'm from Florida. And the thing that made me know that he was from Florida, he had like dreads, he had a grill in, you know, he looked like you imagine Trick Daddy them looking, you know. And I'm like, now that's like a Florida Caribbean type of look and appearance. And it's in every way. We have multiple Black Americas occurring. Sometimes we got multiple Black Americas occurring within the same city, especially if you begin to factor in the idea of class. And that's why we're constantly saying that this idea of race, you think that it's going to bond people together. It's not, because everybody's not conceiving race the same way that you conceive race. And your understanding of race comes from a specific place, a specific experience. There are Black people that I know who would kill Cassie before they allow Cassie land to be established. And I know damn well Cassie would kill they coon asses. And you have that conflict going on. So what exactly is it? What does it mean to be Black? And it's not difficult to really come up with the idea that, Blackness means everything and nothing at the exact same time, if that makes sense. Because you got so many different manifestations of it. And I know that when you come with be first, all Black folk don't believe in that. And that's one of the reasons why we have such conflict. Because if you get zoned in to your version of Blackness and you're convinced that that's the correct version of Blackness, you have pigeonholed yourself into an area where the masses of people will never follow you because they don't believe like you do. Many Black folk, like for me, I could never be a good Muslim because I was raised in a town that we interacted. My basketball coaches, they were white. Many of my classmates, they were white. My hatred of them is not pure because I've dealt with some of them on a personal level. So the idea in calling to hate them, I can't do that purely. However, I can recognize that I don't trust them motherfuckers, and I recognize that Black folk need to have their own, because in a moment's notice, they ain't gonna do the right thing. So I think that, even when you're looking at that post-World War I period where the Second Klan rises up, and the Second Klan is saying, listen, what we need is for y'all to become white. And to become white, you got to speak English. You got to celebrate American holiday. You got to learn to think white, and you got to be white-skinned. If you're not white-skinned, you can't come. And that's how you end up, and there's a brilliant book that was written titled How the Irish Became White. They weren't always white. But if you look at America right now, you would swear that a fucking UFO came down and took all of the European ethnics. Because where are the Russians? Where are the Italians? Where are the Polish? They're fucking white. They're still here, but they're white. And they're going to be white as long as they're dealing with Black folk. But once they win the political election, then they're going to go back behind closed doors. The Irish will get their portion. The Polish will get their portion. It's what Chicago politics was based upon. It's what every major city's politics is based upon. You have an ethnic group that runs a certain part of the city, and they divvy up the spoils and the political and economic spoils of war. And we can't get it together because we're trying to organize everybody around the idea of Blackness. And everybody we are not defining these terms. Cassie Land, you know where they stand. And if you don't stand with that, don't go, which is preferable to just saying, well, we're going to have some Black shit. Okay. And now you got 57 flavors of Black folk who all doing some things that don't benefit the collective. So we got to strip it all the way down and really even begin to talk about what is race. And how do you know how do you even know? And I ask my students this, how do you know that you're Black? And they'll say, well, I can look in the mirror and tell I'm Black. No, You don't look in the mirror and tell that you're black. You know that you're black because white people exist. And you know your chances of survival increase exponentially if you join with other black folk. That's how you know that you're black. And the ancillary question becomes this one. If white folk didn't exist, would you still be black? And I would venture to argue, no, you wouldn't. Texans would call themselves Texans, but within Texas, they would call themselves, well, I'm from the D, meaning Dallas. I'm from H-Town. And even within those cities, I'm Fifth Ward, I'm Third Ward, I'm Sugarland, I'm Pearland. And some of our misguided brothers, I'm in Katy. Okay, so I yield with that. So yeah, it's a valid question that's being raised. Maybe we got it wrong by focusing upon race and need to focus upon those who have a common worldview and cultural experience. Because if I got to go to Cassie Land and they fucking celebrating Kwanzaa, I'm going to have to sit that one out because I don't celebrate fucking Kwanzaa. Okay, I believe in white Santa Claus. And I yield.
Sister Cassie?
Oh my goodness. You can't come to Cassie Land. You wouldn't last.
That's what I'm saying. I ain't gonna make it a Cassie Land. I question too much shit. And they're gonna be like, look, get this fucking contrarian ass Negro up out of here. And then where am I at now? Banished. You know.
You'd be on the island over there.
They're trying to make it.
Oh my goodness. Doc, you all right though. You can come to visit. Oh my goodness. You know what? I was thinking about what Doc was saying. And I was thinking about in the 60s how we were black first, okay, in the 60s. Okay. And then I was looking up the definition as far as ethnicity and what it really meant. And to me, it meant what? To belong to a group of people, okay, to believe in the same culture, to walk in the same thing, okay. Even when I went to Africa, they didn't understand. They didn't, it wasn't black. It was tribal. It wasn't black. You know what I'm saying? So to them, they're looking at us. They don't understand, but they're not going through the same kind of racial problem that we're going through. It's a little different because they're so tribal over there because everybody black. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at the culture and what's going on here in America, it's all about our ethnicity because one group of people, like you said, Doc, we believe in what we believe in, and another group of black folk believe in something else. But guess what? In the 60s, we all believed a lot of what we believed in the 60s. Everybody believed a lot because we were all black and proud. Remember that song, Black and Proud? Everybody across the globe was black and proud. But now, when you got white folk up here and you didn't let them educate your babies, we got all jacked up. And that was done on purpose. So now you got to divide and conquer. These black folk, you light skin, you got green eyes. That's what they did with the Hutus and the Tutus in where? Rwanda, okay? The Dutch came in and they said, oh, you got brown eyes and you got black eyes, so you better than this one. What the hell are you talking about? We're black. And they went to, had a civil war. So we have to get to the point where we're understanding who we are and coming back to our blackness. And I'm not talking about the coons. I'm talking about black folk that's really understanding who they are, culture-wise, and why we're here and what's the next step. It's not about hating white folk. Because to me, I don't give a damn about them. Whatever. You do you stay over there, you good. And I'm gonna keep building over here. So it's like, no, this is because I don't deal with them as much. If I don't have to deal with them, I don't. I needed some work done this weekend and, called and, if they sounded white, I'm good. I don't need your help. I found me somebody black because I believe in black first. I believe. And when I say black first, I mean supporting my own before I go out. Only way I'll go out and support them if they don't have what I need in our community. You know what I'm saying? But we got to understand where it all started. In the 60s, we were all black first. We were all loving on each other. And this is what happened. When we allow others to come in and tell you, oh, you're light skinned, so you're better. Oh, you got green eyes, so you're better. So we kind of cut the thread of our ethnicity because of the culture part of it. So I yield my mic. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yes, ma'am. Brother Isaiah, your thoughts on ethnicity versus race?
I took the time to look it up, and it said an ethnicity or ethnic group is a grouping of people who identify with each other on the basis of perceived shared attributes that distinguish them from other groups. Those attributes can include a common nation of origin or common sets of ancestry, traditions, language, history, society, religion, social treatment, or social treatment. The term ethnicity is often used interchangeably with the term nation, particularly in cases of ethnic nationalism. I guess that's what it is. It says nationalism. I don't even know if that's a word, but it probably is. But look, um, here in the Dominican Republic, do we have black unity? Of course. Do we have disunity? Of course. All white folks are not as unified as you might want to think. But the bottom line of it is that they have control of Wall Street and those entities that matter the most. They can hire and fire more white folk, I'm saying more black folk than white folk. You feel what I'm saying? So the power shift comes from owning things and from being in a position of authority. And when you have money and plenty of it, as Ida B. Wells said, power, nations and people will come to you. And I'm not going to get off of that. This is where this is where the power is. Our ancestors during the Black Wall Street knew about that. They were unified enough to know that they could come together, in which the dollar circulated like what, 30 times, and in the white neighborhood, it barely circulated one. They were building schools and hospitals, all the infrastructure of a community, of a nation that was there. And I was trying to look up Tariq Nasheed. He wrote, not wrote, he did the video series. What was it, Brother Muhammad? It kind of escaped me. Anybody?
Hidden Colors.
Yeah, Hidden Colors. Very well documented. A lot of it I agree with it, and a little bit I don't agree with it. But the idea is it's the same. Integration has fucked us up. We don't need white folks at all. And again, white folks are not as unified as you might want to think. They're not. And with all that being said, I can say this, is that I believe when it get right down to it, on an even level playing field, white folk cannot compete with black folk. We will always outdo them. And that's the reason why they have structured their white supremacy, white superiority in such a way that it makes it a little bit more difficult for us, but not entirely impossible. And as I explained to you before, when I was a little kid, white folks cheated and told that little white boy to run across the field and win. They got to cheat in order to come, to beat us. There's no other way to do it. So, Doc, I got a question. Now, if you go back further enough, you're going to see nothing but black folks on this planet. The Chinese are black people. The first emperor, known as Qin or Qing, comes from the name China comes from. And the Japanese, we were all black people. They might have had slanted eyes or whatever the case may be. But my question is to you, being ethnically Chinese or being ethnically Japanese or being ethnically French or whatever the case may be, obviously there has to be some kind of a unifying thread that run through the French, that run through the German, that run through whatever, so that when they are fighting or going to war with whatever or whomever. Is there what is the impetus behind that unity that allowed them to go to war and to take the what's the word I'm looking for? They take the booty from that conquering state of mind or that conquered nation, where they bring all of that back and then they conquer that land, and they are now in control of that land, as we have seen in so many instances throughout Europe, where you have the Turks and then you have you know what I'm trying to say. What is the unifying thread that runs through all of that? You know what I mean?
I believe that the unifying thread that you're highlighting is that you're going to benefit from the actions of the nation. I don't think that it has to necessarily be flowing from a patriotic position, but you have to see some good, how you're going to get some personal gain based upon the actions of the nation. To not have any personal benefit, financial, land-wise, politically, makes your actions to be completely foolish. And it's one of the reasons why you can see people who may not be necessarily Asian fighting for an Asian nation, because when the spoils of war are divvied up, they're going to receive some portion of that.
Okay, now my other question is, it's kind of like twofold, one American and one Japanese. We know that the Japanese conquered China and ruled it with an iron fist. Two Asian nations, they look similar, but they're different ethnically. The other one is that I can relate to, America, where we have the military-industrial complex, where those, what's the name of these, McDonnell Douglas, the machinery that goes into the weaponry is hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars that are being fed by our government to go to war for the benefit of what seems to be our freedom, but it's really only benefiting certain people. You feel what I'm saying? It's not all of America is not getting the benefit from Iraq and from Iran or from wherever. It's only a select group of people who are getting rich. You understand where I'm going with this?
Yeah, companies like Halliburton.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So my thing is, what I'm trying to say is that war has its benefit. It's not a trickle down kind of thing. It's only benefit for those who are in power politically or who have economic strings attached to that war. You feel what I'm saying? And so
yeah, but one of the things that if you go back and you look at World War II, World War II is a very profitable war. It's the one that leads America out of the Great Depression.
Well, you gotta include World War I too.
Yeah, and I'm just focusing upon World War II for this example. But World War I, you're correct. It's applicable as well. But if we focus on World War II, the nation is mired in a Great Depression, and I think that your point that people having significant ties to the military-industrial complex, that they're going to benefit most in a grandest way from the spoils of war. However, I think that you have to kind of back up and realize for the common man that we're in the middle of a depression. During World War I, you could say that Black folk are escaping economic bondage of sharecropping in the South. So the reason that they're going to, in many ways, join the war and participate in the war has nothing to do with patriotism or nationalism. It has everything to do with a self-advantageous position of, I need a fucking check. It's been a long time since I've had a check. And so they're relatively speaking, their financial increase is going to be scant. However, it is a financial, how major is a financial increase for Black folk who are suffering from in a depression in a nation that won't give them a leg up? They go fight the war, they go serve in the war for the sole purpose of getting that check often. And there's so many people right now that I'm dealing with someone right now who is getting their son together to go into the U.S. military. It's what he wants to do. And she's saying, well, listen, if you're going to do that, make it a career. Go in there, number one, with a degree and an understanding that you're going to do 25 years. So you can walk out of there at about 45 years old with a permanent guaranteed check for the rest of your life and still be young enough to start a new career. So I think that even for the foot soldier, for the workers, that there is a financial gain involved in that. The same way with when we had archaic wars, the blacksmith had a financial gain in it. A lot of hands are going to be fed from a war. War is big business, and it often will trickle down in some way to the working class and poor community.
Now that trickled down after World War II came in the form of during the Roosevelt period, came in the form of FHA loan. And the veteran that came back, the white veteran that is, benefited from their veteranship, from their service in the military, while black folk got the foot in the ass. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there were some elements of this trickle down thing that happened, but the greater emphasis and wealth of that went toward McDonnell Douglas and Halliburton, like you were saying.
For sure.
And all of the shareholders. Yeah. So this is my point. But listen to what I'm saying. This is my point. For us as a people, we got to understand where the power lies. Wall Street. You feel what I'm saying? Because if we don't, then we're just going to be sitting around waiting for somebody to give us something. And that's not going to ever happen. So my whole push about this is it got to be a unifying thread that unifies black folks. And that thread is money. Now, does that mean that we all have to have be a part of it? And white folks, 100% of white folks are not part of it. Their power structure. So we don't need all black folks. It would be nice, but we don't need all black folks to be a part of it. It's just not going to happen because not everybody is on the same level. And not everybody is going to want to be a part of Wall Street or want to be a part of real estate or want to be a part of starting a business with a product or service that people need and want. And those are the only three ways in which a person can make money or get wealthy or create a financial lineage in which they can leave money behind for their generational wealth in the future. So that's my point. I hope that people get it. But if push comes to shove, I would hope that at the bottom line, Brother Maurice, Sister Cassie, and Doctor, that we got to be about that money, man. One thing that to go from to be a black person in Florida, a black person in Texas, a black person from Chicago, it's still black, but we had different perhaps ways of seeing things as a unified group as far as that goes. And like you were saying, trick daddy kind of thing going on. But the idea is that money is money. It's still green. And it's still very important to have. And when you have money, parties and races will come to you. And I'll throw it right back at you, Brother Muhammad.
All right. Thank you, Brother Isaiah. We are at our time. So we're going to have to do a part 2 because we have not gotten through where I wanted to get through. But I wanted to, since we talked about race and we talked about ethnicity, I want to talk about, well, what is blackness? So in our closing comments, I'm going to share the book I wrote that I need to publish, but I haven't done it at this time. But I wrote this book a few years ago, and it's called Our Time Now for Black Unity. And so I'm going to go to this part where I talk about what is blackness. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So in here, the question that I'm answering is, What is blackness? And I say, Steve Biko said, being black is not a matter of pigmentation, but a reflection of a mental attitude. What is a mental attitude? A complex mental state involving beliefs, feelings, and values, and dispositions to act in certain ways. Now we must define what our mental attitude that will reflect our true nature and our true self. Being black to me is being God. It's living beyond the scope of our oppressors and into the life we were created to be in the beginning. It's finding and restoring our righteous mind. We are the first people in our God's creation. We are his children. Just as black is not a color, it is the essence from which all color comes. We are the original people. We are gods, but we live and die like mortals. Truth has come to you. In our closing comments, I would like us to, what does blackness mean to you? Because it is our blackness that I believe should be our rallying cry for our people, no matter where we're found on the planet. Because we're all facing the same oppressor, no matter where we are on the planet. Some of our people thought that they can escape to England and find a better time in England. And if you listen to our sister that's from England that comes on the program sometime, it's not no better over there than it is here. You're still treated like a nigger. There's universal agreement that black people are niggers. All white folks, they got that. That's universal agreement. And those who want to be with them agree with their status, with the status of who we are. But we're not the real niggas of the planet. They are. We are God's people. So I would like the panel, in your closing remarks, to tell us, what does blackness mean to you? Sister Cassie?
Wow, this is a great question. I love your thinking. And yes, you have to get that book done. It's time. Yes, but to me, blackness, to me, is family. It's holding our culture and understanding who we are and understanding our heritage, okay? Understanding the traditions and the heritage of our blackness, understanding how to walk in, and I'm talking about our men right now, how to walk in the kingship, how to walk in the leadership position that we should be that the men should be walking in. I believe that we should be standing on the word and taking our rightful places, okay, in this world, and understanding what is our position. We don't know our positions right now. We have no clue because we were taught by people who don't like you that you were nothing. And we really believe that. I talk to Africans. I have African friends. I talk to them, and some of the stuff that comes out of their mouth is just like, wow, who told you that? I'm thinking about Malcolm. Who told you that? And then even talking and looking at Black people, we take on everybody's culture but our own. We don't even investigate our real true culture because nobody else likes our culture. So we want to bow down to other people's and fit into their culture. It's not working. We can't mix and mingle and marry whoever we want. We have to understand who was put on this earth for us to marry. That's our blackness. Blackness is not you going over here and marrying this one, and mixing and mingling. We have to understand that's not who we are, and that's not what we're supposed to be doing. And teaching our children about the family, teaching our children about the culture and our history, and us walking in the kingship, okay? And for Black women to walk beside our men, to allow them to have that kingship, to allow them to have that leadership position that they were placed in from the foundation of the world. And we have to understand that where our place is. And our place is helpers. We are helpers. We're not here to do it all. But to me, now we have to understand the children. Okay, teaching our young men and our young girls who to marry and who not to, why they were placed on this earth, parenting on purpose, making sure that we're understanding our children's gifts and walking and building, and separating from people that we have no business coming into being with anyway. So a lot of what we're seeing by our shortfalls, to me, as a black woman, I'm seeing a shortfall because we're not walking into where we were supposed to be. We weren't taught a lot of the positions that we're supposed to be walking in. We're not teaching our children that. They're just up for grabs. Whatever you want to do, you got to feel it. That's not who we are. That's their shit. That's their stuff. We have to walk in what we were created to do, and we have to look and notice our children's gifts and walk them in that area. That's what blackness is to me. It's us being black, walking black, building black, supporting black, being black. 100%. Not hating anybody because I love me and because I love my own. And having them understand that you're good over there. Because I don't acknowledge don't mean I don't hate you. It just means I'm too busy over here doing what I need to be doing with my family and continuing generational wealth, building, helping them to understand what blackness is and what it is to be black, not just in America, but just to understand their culture and walk in what we were created to walk in. That's what it means to me.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Sister Cassie. Doc?
Yes, sir. What does blackness mean to me? I'm reminded of I was in Kumasi, Ghana, and dealing with a brilliant, courageous sister by the name of Miriam Ross. She was a professor over there. And she takes me in front of her students and she says, she basically said, watch this. And she says to her students, I am black. And they just busted out laughing. And they said, no, Dr. Ross, you're not black. You're more like a tan color. You're like a beige color. And they were utilizing the concept of black to be a physical descriptor. For my people, blackness is actually a political declaration, announcing to the outside world of where you stand on this issue. And despite what some Negroes would like to think, if they were in their right mind, they would understand that that decision was made for them independently of them, that they had no say in if they were going to be black or not within this nation. So for me, blackness is a political descriptor, nothing more and nothing less. And I yield.
All right, thank you, Doc. Thank you, sir. Brother Isaiah?
Yeah, Doc, am I still the devil for today?
Hell yeah, your ass is the devil every day. Yeah. The devil don't, you gotta remember the devil is the fallen angel. He never changes his nature. He's always an angel. The motherfucker can fall. It's just what it is. And they exiled your ass to the island of Patmos. That's why you're over there across the water from us, man. You too dangerous.
All right. Calm down, player. Calm down. We good. Cause we family. We gonna fight up on this motherfucker. But we gonna be at the end of the day. Look, blackness is a godship. Blackness is a rulership. Blackness is the very essence at the heart and soul of God. Do you understand? I don't know if my words, I try to be very selective about my words. And I want them to be impactful. You are the epitome in human form of the universe. You are the epitome of the very essence of God walking on two legs. The very essence of creation. Because without you, black man, black woman, the world cannot be, and there would be nobody else on this motherfucking planet. You are the mother and father of all humanity. Everybody comes from you. You are the very essence of life. And if you look throughout Europe, you will see nothing but black statues of the Madonna and the Child and the Trinity. White folks worship you. They worship you. They worship you, black man, black woman. They want to be you so bad they can taste that motherfucker. That melanin is singing throughout the universe. The very essence of God is in you, the very frequency, the very vibration. It's you, black man, you, black woman, because there ain't nobody else coming. You are the answer. The white man has fucked up. And as Doc said, they're the worst motherfucking niggas on the planet. Better known as the troglodyte niggas. I sent you a video, brother. I don't know if you saw it, of the white man going throughout all of the earth, just fucking up shit. That's what they do. That's what they do. Best pedophiles, best raping, best killing, best stealing, best everything. Before 1965, 90% of the black of the people in jail were white. 90%. They have no other way of doing and being because that's all what they know, baby. We civilized these motherfuckers 3 times. 1, strike 1, 2, strike 2, 3, strike 3. You out, motherfucker. There ain't no coming back because once we get power back this time, they ain't gonna get up. We're gonna keep our motherfucking foot on their neck and in their fucking ass. And I'll throw right back at you.
All right, thank you, brother Isaiah. And you know, like I said, we're gonna have to do a part 2 because we're not even halfway through where I wanted to get to, because there is an objective at the end. There's an objective at every program. We want you all to be motivated to action. Motivated to action. No matter how small, no matter how big, we want you motivated to action because every action matters. And so I want to take this time out to bring Sister Cassie back. Sister Cassie, tell us your experience that happened at the store, because it's important, and we're glad that you stood up and you did what needed to be done, because this is the thing that has to be done every day by all of us. This is how we change how our people will be. Go ahead, Sister Cassie.
We have to begin to stand and to protect our own. When we see injustice, I don't care how small it is. I was at the store earlier, and when you walked in the store, there was a white guy behind the counter, and of course, you know, he's standing there, and the look, right? So I'm walking around the store, so I get in line, and we had a couple people that was in front of me, but the two young ladies that was checking out, they forgot their bag, okay? And instead of him saying, "Hey, ma'am, you forgot your bag," he just looked like, whatever. And he just set it on the back counter. And I'm looking like, are we going to tell them that? Are you going to tell them? Customer service is what? We stop what we're doing. They weren't even out the store. He could have ran that bag to him or said, "Hey, young ladies, here's your bag," or something. He didn't do that. So me, I'm looking. They come walk into their car. So I walk out the store, out of my line, walked out the store, and I said, "Hey, you guys left your bag in the store." And I went back in that store, and I'm looking at all these black folk, even the woman that was getting waited on. She said nothing. She didn't even, and then him and her started conversating. So when the black girl, the young lady walked back in, she said, "And you weren't going to tell me I left my bag?" And I said, "No, he wasn't going to tell you. He didn't care. He just left it on the counter." I said, "This is what I'm saying, black folk." And, because they was trying to say that she was wrong, for even coming in and saying what she said. But I'm like, no, he's wrong. When are we going to hold them accountable? Because he didn't do his job. But what bothered me was that everybody jumped on this young woman because she said what she said coming back into the store. So I turned to these, it was like maybe 5 black folk in the line. I said, this right here is prime example why they don't give a dang on about any of us. They treat you disrespectful because you don't stand up for each other. You saw that young lady, and I was mainly talking to the young lady that was in front of me who saw, but she and him was going back and, hey, he said, was mumbling some stuff under his breath to her. And that's when I looked, and that's what made me so mad, because she was agreeing. I said, you can't agree with this nonsense right here. When you see injustice, when you see them even just a little bit out of place, you have to swat them back into their place for them to understand. I said, and this is why we as black people are at the bottom today, because we don't check their bad behavior. But people in the line still thought I was wrong for saying something. And I'm like, well, when do we hold them accountable? He didn't do his job. So, of course, I'm in the store, going back and forth. And my husband's standing there. He's like this. He's like, he already. But my thing is, when do we say something? When do we hold each other accountable? When do we hold them accountable? And when do we protect our own? Because all those black people, we saw the bag, and I saw what he did, and I was just standing there watching. I said, what's he gonna do with the bag? So of course he did what he did, and he just laid it on the back counter like it didn't matter. Who don't give a dang on who? Nobody's gonna say anything. So I felt it my place to speak up. I'm gonna always see it my place to speak up. I'm gonna always hold them devils accountable. I'm gonna always check their bad behavior. I'm gonna always have something to say. So whoever don't like it, don't go to the store with me, because I'm gonna have something to say. Trust and believe that. Because I will never allow them. They've done enough. And people say, well, that was just a small thing. Okay, but let me check this one out. The lady in front of me forgot her receipt. What did he do? He gonna hand it to me. I said, go give it to her. What you handing it to me for? And he looked. He wasn't used to that type of behavior. He's used to black folk. I ain't gonna say niggas. He's used to black folk being obedient niggas. I'm gonna say it that time. He's not used to black folk holding him accountable. He's just to doing and saying anything he wants, and we're gonna agree with him. I'm not agreeing with you because you're wrong. That was bad behavior. That was bad customer service. But he wouldn't have did a white woman like that. He'd have ran that bag right out there to her car. So give my babies the same respect you would have gave that white woman.
Exactly.
So we have to start holding each other and loving on each other and covering each other. Let's stop with this nonsense. Well, it ain't my bag of groceries. Well, it could have been my daughter.
That's right.
Could have been your daughter. Don't we want somebody to have something to say to protect our babies? Let's start holding them accountable, y'all. Stop being scared. Stop it.
Exactly. And again, we thank you, Sister Cassie, for your
Yeah, can I say something right quick, Brother Muhammad?
Go ahead.
And Doc, both of these, you guys are this is you guys' show. Look, I really believe you're going to really make a difference for the people who are coming on to the show, in the comments or whatever. We're going to have to start offering people solutions. And like I said, there's only 3 ways you can make money: through the stock market of Wall Street, bond commodity futures, options, real estate, or starting a business or product that people need and want, a business. So with those 3 angles, I would like to take a part in that. I'm not a real estate person. We own our own home, but that's not my focus. Even though I know if I want to get into real estate, it would have to be foreclosed properties or back taxes, because I ain't no damn way a house is worth $1 million. Matter of fact, as a side note, and I saw a house for worth it was sold in 23. Get this? No, it was sold in 20. Yeah, in 23, in January 23. It was bought or sold for $1.3 million. That same house is worth, or they're trying to sell it for $5 million. I'm like, how in the fuck does this happen in Florida? Do you understand what I'm saying? So don't be no fool like I was when buying a Rolex watch. Just because I got some money, a little bit of a nickel over quarter, I want to try to look the part. No, that's not how you do it. You live live below your means. You save and work your money. You coerce. How do you say? You join your money with other people, just like these four sisters did with $25,000 apiece, $100,000. Now they're way over $1 billion now. So the idea is like you just said, who said that? You start small. Yeah, that was you, brother, mom. You start small and you work your way up. So it has to be a unified effort through like-minded people who want to be successful. You can't, I think that was you, Doc. You can't be associated with folks on the corner trying to selling drugs and try to go up to them. Hey, man, we need to try to get into Wall Street. They ain't gonna listen to that bullshit. You're coming from a whole nother perspective. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that on the table. And you do that. Like I threw out bonds for the win in order to stop the oppression of cops on us and our community. And even when the city is not doing what it's supposed to do, you can use that bond for the win and become politically active like I did here. It wasn't but a short minute, but I sued the government here and won to stop that. And somebody talking about what Jew? That's the VAC. That's what I was trying to talk about, the VAC. So it can be done, it will be done, but we have to be politically active. You just can't sit on your ass and hope that somebody else do something. It ain't gonna happen. So I throw it back to you.
All right, thank you, Brother Isaiah. I want to thank the panel for coming on this evening and sharing your love, your wisdom, your knowledge, and understanding. And as Sister Christine says that she's still learning, we're all learning. We're all still learning, and that is the beautiful thing about it all. But we will do a part 2 to fire this one, because we got to make sure that we get to the end and motivate y'all with the proper things that must be done. We're at a time where we don't look to nobody else to carry our water. We got to carry it ourselves. We got to make sure we take care of ourselves, because it is our time now. We can't complain and look back at Dr. King, Malcolm, Martin, nobody. We're on deck. So it's about everything that we do today. What are you doing today for your Black self and your people? That's how we is. And what we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm going to kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay black. Stay black.
Shalom.
So you better get the message and get it straight. You're going to need some bridge work. It's simple as that. Because we're living in judgment. We're living in implementation.